mai, hoki mai to the verdict. Today we are discussing Warriors captain Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, and it's the 40th anniversary of the Underarm ball. Before we get into it though, let me introduce to you our guests today, as always, Goran Paladin.
Hi Rav, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. And we finally have a wahine at the table. Thank you, Rikki Swannell.
Am I not the first, surely?
Oh
my God, what is going on here?
It was like Mills Molina for about 10 weeks. Then we managed to rope in Jeff Wilson.
I know who we can get. Let's wheel out Rikki.
Yeah.
It's time.
It's great to have you here. You know, we've got one of the leading voices of sports broadcasting and sports media in New Zealand. So, yeah, finally a little bit of, you know, validation for the verdict.
Oh, well, look, if this is the validation you've been looking for, I don't know what that says about the verdict, but thanks.
Oh.
It's nice to be here. It's good to see you guys.
Great to see you too, mate.
Okay, now, before we carry on, another first for the verdict. I am issuing an apology today and a retraction of a point from last week's loss for Goran when we were discussing
okay, all right.
Yeah, so here we go. This is your moment, Goran. So last week we had a debate about the UFC and whether or not Conor McGregor needs the UFC or if the UFC needs Conor McGregor. Now, when I went back and I watched the episode, I kind of felt my decision was based on the financial aspect of Conor McGregor just not needing the UFC because his bank balance is pretty flippin' healthy. But in hindsight, to be the best athlete in the sport of mixed martial arts, he does need the UFC to do that. So
fantastic.
last week is officially a draw with Mike Angove.
Look at him. Look at him. He's like, peacock chest puffed out. He's so excited.
Well, I don't know a great deal about UFC, and I was going one-on-one with Mike Angove, who is mixed martial arts in New Zealand. So pretty happy about that, Rav. Thank you for the very humble concession.
To be fair, and if you've noticed, I've done it with Mike Angove not here.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll be on the phone straight away.
Yes.
8 o'clock tonight rolls around.
Is that your first kind of technical win of this of the verdict? Or have you come out on top?
No, I drew with Jeff once.
Yes, yeah. I think
But
you
more-
might have drew with Mills once too.
More often than not, I lose.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Just setting the bar low for yourself. Excellent. Okay, good.
That's what I think. All right. Now, before we get into it, Rikki, I just lay down, you know, a bit of the rules of how it all works. So basically, I'll put the argument forward, what the question will be, and you'll state briefly what your side of the argument will be. You can then go into detail on that, put in any little bit of evidence you may have researched or heard over the last few days or whatnot. And of course you can respond to each other. I usually say be wary of time, but I think just go
for it.
Pressure,
Just go for it,
Little
Rikki.
notes. Right. Special notebook.
Yeah, you've gone old school. You're writing stuff down.
I do, yeah. I love an old school notebook.
I have a computer and a printer, so I just
very
tap,
modern
tap,
of
tap, and then out it comes.
Modern of you.
Yeah. And if I make a mistake, I don't have to draw a line through it. Just
I'm quite
backspace,
happy. Old school.
delete.
Get my thoughts out on the paper.
Good for you.
Yeah,
Look,
good.
the mind game has started already. All right, so let's get into our first case. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. It has been announced that he will be leaving the Warriors at the end of 2020. So the argument is it the right decision for him or is it the wrong one?
100% right decision. Absolutely the right decision for Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. I guess it's one of those things that for a couple of years has been discussed, isn't it? And there's smoke, fire, and finally, yeah, we've got a fire. I think a number of reasons for this decision for him is that he has carried a huge load for the Warriors the past few years, and now he gets to go into a code and into a team which, let's be honest, is we think we know where he's going, where he is going to be at the absolute highest echelon of the game alongside the best in the business. So he can just be him. He doesn't have to worry about being the leader, being the face of the club, being the face of the game and all of that. Sure, it's going to come with massive pressure, but I think he can just go out and play. He can take that time to learn the code. In terms of brand, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck could go next level. If he makes the All Blacks, if he plays in the 2023 World Cup, okay, yes, he's got a big profile in New Zealand and Australia and in a smaller league community. That would go next level. He can set himself and his family up for life. And you know what? Actually gets a chance to win.
Oh, okay, all right. Jeez.
Actually getting
Rikki
a chance to win.
Shots fired. Given that the Warriors were only a couple of weeks away from being in the playoffs last year, given all they went through last year, they had players depart, they had loan players come in, they're based in Australia, and jeez. Kick a wounded animal when it's down, Rikki.
It's not wrong though, is it? Like, let's be honest. It has been a long.
They've recruited well. They've recruited well for the upcoming season. They've got Phil Gould on board. I think the only way is up for the Warriors. And at the end of this season, when they've made the finals and they've gone maybe 1 or 2 weeks at least into that playoff mix, I reckon he'll be regretting his decision to jump ship. I think it's the wrong move. And I base that on the fact that he's been a rugby league player for a decade. At the end of this season, he would have been in the NRL for 10 years. And he's a rugby league fullback. He's one of the best that there is. I know people rave about James Tedesco and what he does for the Roosters, but if you put James Tedesco at the Warriors, he wouldn't be half the player that Roger Tuivasa-Sheck is. He won the Dally M in 2018. The reason why I don't think he's going to transition that well into the 15-man game is that as a fullback, Rav and Rikki, he doesn't kick. The game is set up so that on the last tackle, ball gets bombed downfield. Roger's got 40 metres to wind up and have a red-hot crack. And that's how he makes all of his metres. You know, he's a massive metre eater. In rugby, there's a time and place for that, yes, but primarily, you're looking up and you're seeing space. How do I get that space? With my boot. In 10 seasons in the NRL, he has 794 kick metres. He averages 5.58 metres a game for the Warriors over the last few seasons. And I just think that is where he's going to let himself down. Awesome running game with ball in hand, broken field play, he'll be majestic. But when push comes to shove and you're playing against men and not boys, because we've all seen the YouTube videos, he's carving up for the blue schoolboys, isn't he? But when you're playing against men who have plied their trade year after year after year, I think he's going to find it pretty tough.
Caveat being, he's probably not going to play fullback.
Where is he going to...
He's going to start. They're going to start. He's not going to come in and play fullback. He's going to play on the wing, surely.
Well, but on the wing you've got to kick as well.
Well, you do, but it's not... You know, there's plenty of wingers who can't kick that well. So that's going to be the difference, and that will allow him that time to find that. I mean, a lot of people are discussing where eventually he might end up as an even closer, centre, even second five. But I think at the start, that lack of a kicking game is not going to be as big of an issue, because it'd be highly unlikely, particularly if he goes to the Blues, that he's going to start as a fullback.
I wonder if, you know, like being in the NRL, he is a massive fish in that NRL pond. Then all of a sudden you go into the New Zealand rugby ocean and you've got all these other outside backs. Like, let's just say that he might play wing, he might play fullback. Is he going to be better than Beauden Barrett? You wrote a book for Beauden Barrett. You're not going to say that he's better than Beauden Barrett. Oh, so he's not going to put Beauden Barrett out of a spot. Is he going to put Geordie Barrett out of a spot? Maybe, if they continue to play Geordie on the wing. But there are so many other decent wing options. Caleb Clark. Will Jordan comes on and scores 2 tries against Argentina. Look pretty good at the end of the year. Sevu Reece. You know, there are so many options. And then Roger's going to come in and he's got to do so much more to justify his spot.
But I don't think he has to be a big fish. And that's why I'm saying, going back to that point, I think for him, after what he has taken on in the Warriors the last few years, and particularly last season, where, I mean, he is an exemplary human, isn't he? Like, what a great bloke for rugby to be having coming, and what a loss for rugby league. That ability to not have to win your team games every single time might be something that means that he can just ease his, not easy, you don't ease your way into Super Rugby, but to be able to learn the craft a little bit more. He comes in at the time, what's he going to be, 28, where he has been a professional athlete, and that ability to get the best out of himself and pick the right brains and learn from a Beauden Barrett and whoever else, and he knows that blue setup. He knows Patrick Tuivasa, you know, that he's an Auckland guy. I think that will really benefit him, benefit his game.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier, if he's not playing wing, they might shift him in closer. Maybe he's playing 13 or 12. An issue that he'll find is with rugby league playing fullback, you are miles away from the defensive line. In rugby playing 12-13, you are the defensive line, and you know, staying connected with your insides and your outsides, that'll be quite tough for him to handle, I think. It's a different sort of fitness as well. Whereas like with fullback, you're sort of like scouting and you're talking a lot. Yes, there's a bit of communication involved in the centre position, but yeah, it's a completely different beast. as far as I can see.
But that's still a long way down the track again too, isn't it? Playing in midfield, so as we're saying. So he's going to be a wing, and I think his defensive abilities as a rugby league fullback could be really beneficial. In that last line of defence, covering across the speed that he has, like his defensive aspect could end up being quite an asset.
Yeah. I want to pick up on something you said earlier, Rikki. You mentioned the brand of RTS. It could go sky high.
Yeah.
At the moment, I think in sections of the rugby league community, I wonder if that brand is just sort of taken a bit of a hit. Because you've signed up for the Warriors, you're contracted through to the end of 2022, you're not seeing that contract through, then you're going to the other game, you know, the game that rugby league fans hate or despise or strongly dislike. And I wonder if people are going to be a little bit upset about that. That, coupled with the fact that there's strong talk linking him to a possible appearance in the NPC later this year, which would therefore rule him out of a Kiwis Rugby League World Cup campaign. So the brand might actually take a hit before it's built up with the All Blacks.
I don't know. I think he is so well regarded, and I did something recently which I never do or try not to do, which was read the comments.
Uh-oh.
Never read the comments.
Why did you do that to yourself?
But no, and it was particularly with regards to a certain column that was written about Roger Tuivasa-Sheck and basically calling him a traitor. And I think a lot of the response I have seen from the public has been overwhelmingly positive, that he has given absolutely everything to the Warriors and to the club for now. Yes, they're disappointed, for sure, but it's not like he's sort of been some kind of fly-by-nighter who's kind of come in and done the best for himself. He's done the absolute best for the Warriors and for the fans and within the community. And so I was quite surprised at how generally the well-wishers, how positive they were for him, and people going, really looking forward to seeing how you go in rugby. I mean, I guess particularly for Auckland fans, so Warriors and Blues fans, which of course gets muzzing, but, you know, that was quite positive in that sense. But like, he could be, as I say, if he gets to it, and that's still a big if, and a play in a 2023 World Cup in France, they're quite a big deal in France, the All Blacks, and someone like him who is good-looking, nice guy, personable, great family man, community guy, and an excellent footy player. I think it will go next level, and I think people are relatively positive. The League World Cup, yes, disappointing maybe, but in the grand scheme of him, he's got to make that call that's best for him and his family. And is playing a Rugby League World Cup or playing in the NPC a better option?
Look, I know you're going to award Rikki the point, but I'm waiting for the next week where you say I got it wrong.
Look, I was also going to say don't expect another.
I was going to say you're going to wait for like the guest to go, and so then it's like, oh, yeah, sorry, actually, Goran, you were right, just to like boost his ego a little bit.
Basically just pandering to the little,
pretty much,
child.
Rikki, don't watch next week.
Okay, right.
Okay, so I am going with Rikki on this one.
Sure, all right.
Obviously.
Hey.
Obviously, he's an amazing athlete, and any player who in their right mind has, even thought of becoming an All Black and that actually becomes a reality for them and has gained this reputation as well as being a great player over the years, it's a no-brainer for Roger, I think. The one thing I do worry about, though, is how will the Warriors cope without him? He doesn't only bring being, the meter reader. He's the leader, he's the, the role model, the everything for the Warriors right now. And I think in a lot of ways the Warriors have wrapped a lot around him. So what will they as an organisation do without him now?
Yeah. And another aspect to that is when he departs at the end of the year, what happens with Tohu Harris as well? And all of a sudden you've got some serious experience walking out the door, and how you replace that.
I think as good as this move is for RTS, it is in a long list of bad things that have happened to the Warriors and to the Kiwis and rugby league in general. This is bad, really, really bad for them. He is the talisman of that club. Who is that person? Who's your marquee guy now at the club?
Might be Chanel Harris-Tavita in a year or two. He's taken a few decent strides. Yeah. And he and Cody Nukarima, I think they forged a pretty decent partnership towards the back end of last season. So he's one that you could probably pin your colours to.
They at least have the chance to start to shine now in their own right with the RTS equation taken in.
It's just kind of like who is that household name though that even hardcore just sport fans or non-Warriors and you think him or you saw him walking down the street, you're like, oh, there's Roger Tuivasa-Sheck from the Warriors. He's got that presence about him, and yes, like those guys are going to build and grow.
Yeah.
But it's not that marquee that so many NRL clubs actually do pin their hats on, don't they? And maybe to their detriment sometimes that it becomes too much. But I just think particularly at a time when the Warriors they have no presence here at home really this year, are they? Again, at least for a wee while.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, because of circumstances, and they're doing a good thing by being over there. But they, like as an entity in the New Zealand kind of sport landscape, without somebody like him, it just dwindles them a little bit.
Yeah, but we know what sport's like. You lose Grant Fox, you find an Andrew Mertens.
Yeah.
You lose Richie McCaw, there's Sam Cane. And the same thing will happen. You know, for a number of years, it was Sean Johnson at the Warriors. He leaves, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck's there. If he departs, there will be somebody else to step up.
Yeah.
And they have had those really great leaders over the years as well. Simon Mannering, for example.
There's going to be a
Ruben Wiki, Steve Price. Yeah.
Which I think for New Zealand Rugby League in general, not just the Warriors, when you're trying to, it's such a sport is so competitive as a business, and you're all trying to fight for sponsorship dollars and all that. Who's your guy? Like who is that person for the next couple of years and for the NZRL and for the Warriors?
Rav?
Wait, is it me?
Yeah,
it's you. You are playing fullback.
Congratulations.
For the Warriors, in 2022.
It's your big moment.
Good job.
Okay, well, whatever happens during this year and for the next, we do wish Roger all the very best.
Of course.
Can't wait to see what happens, actually. Okay, so let's get on to case number 2. We're taking a little bit of a curveball on this one. Okay, February 1981. New Zealand are facing Australia at the MCG. They need 6 runs to draw, not to win, to draw. Right?
That's such a ridiculous story.
You can't make this up. Then Australia come and deliver the infamous underarm ball. This year celebrates 40 years of that happening. And it appears that a lot of people, probably mostly cricket fans, have not gotten over it. Is it time to get over this event?
Yes, please. Firstly, I have such an issue with arbitrary numbers, like 40. Like, really, who cares? Like, why is 39 or 41?
Hang on a second. Wait a minute. Because you turned 40 in November.
Thank you.
And we had a dinner, right?
Yes, we did.
We had a lovely dinner in Ponsonby.
We did.
I turned 40 a few weeks back.
Yes.
Had a lovely party. So why wouldn't you have a party for a 40?
No,
why wouldn't you acknowledge it?
I know. I've just got this thing like, and it's a media thing, right? Yeah, it's because we're hooking the story on something, but it's no less or greater of a story because it's 39 or 41. Thanks for outing my age to the nation.
Can we edit that out easily? I mean,
but doesn't it also go to the point though that we were both barely alive when this happened?
I was Australian when it happened. Confession. These are my confessions.
I was going to say, do people know this about you?
Yeah. I think it's pretty well known. I was born at Westmead Hospital in Western Sydney, and so like a month after I was born, we got Trevor Chappell rolling the rock down the field to Brian McKechnie. So I was an Aussie at the time.
So this is why you'll never let it go.
Yeah.
No. Going aside from my frustration over numbers and round numbers and why we have to do something about it, because we'll do like 45 years next. That'll be the next one. Look, if we hold on to animosity like this for so long, I just feel like it makes us a small little nation at the end of the world, which is exactly what we are. And we try and live up, but I mean small in a different sense of the word. Like it is small, it's silly. Yes, we remember, but it's folklore now. It's not something that I'm going to get worried about. I'm going to, every time I see an Australian or any time something happens on a field, like, oh, remember the underarm? No, because I didn't, because I was 6 weeks old.
Yeah, but as your rite of passage, somebody somewhere at some point in your life sat you down and was like, this is why Australians are a bunch of a-holes. Roll tape and then you see what happens, and, you know, like, I put it this way, and I hope we never forget about the Underarm incident, because it's just one of the more outrageous things that you see in international sport happen. Every great rivalry needs an origin story, and that's what the Underarm is for trans-Tasman cricket, because you always go back to it and it shows good versus evil, New Zealanders being the good and Australians being the very, very evil side of that equation. And it just goes to show that no matter what the scenario, I mean, 6 runs to tie. Yeah.
Which is actually often forgotten, isn't it, that it wasn't even to win.
Not even to win. Just to draw the game. And, you know, in one ball shy of 100 overs of one-day cricket, how many sixes were hit that day? A bagel, a big fat 0, and then you've got a number 10 batsman. So it just underlines that win-at-all-costs mentality for the Australians, and they carry that through to present day, and we're the gentlemen of the game. And so, yeah, it's that origin story. It's kind of like, would the Battle of the Bridge between Auckland and North Harbour have that sort of intense rivalry without the Battle of Oniwa Domain?
Does it really have that now, though? Because things move on and different rivalries happen, and we
refer back to it to try and build it up.
Forget it, but I don't think we should, because it's part of folklore and all of those different things, and so it's not forgotten. But whether we should every year bring it up and this anniversary and all of that, because I think we are setting ourselves up to fail if we keep holding ourselves up as holier than thou over this one incident year after year after year. And yes, we know the Black Caps are now the gentlemen of the game. That is a real pedestal to fall a long, long way from.
Well, we haven't always been the gentlemen of cricket. I mean, there was that one time in South Africa with Kyle Mills coming on the field with a red bib on, giving it to Faf du Plessis when he got out. Do you remember that?
When was that?
It was a world tournament. I forget what one, but
and there was the one. I mean, the one up on the balcony when they won, and they gave it pretty large as well. I mean, and as I say though, but at the moment in particular, because New Zealand cricket has got this standing and the players, it's a long way to fall. As I say, we keep bringing up this over and over again. We're setting ourselves up to be. We're setting ourselves up as very lily white in this all the time, and I think you look back and we've learned more about the Underarm and the incident and everything that surrounded it, right? And so maybe we kind of got to be a little bit better at how we take these incidents and vilify people and all of that, because the Chapels have really suffered from that for years and years and years. And seriously suffered.
There was, vilification in the early years, but I think 40 years down the track, it's not so much like we're not with our knives out trying to kill people or anything like that over what happened. It's just, it's pointing back to the past, and from that, we move on, and it's a wonderful thing.
We always live in the past. Do we move on though?
But this is what we do as sports fans. We hang our hats on things that have happened in the past. Talk to somebody about Wayne Barnes, and they're going to mention a forward pass that happened in a World Cup. It's what we do.
But this is the thing.
What do you want me to do? Just park it and move on? The Underarm never happened.
And move on. But as I say, I don't think it needs to become a big deal every 5, 10, 15 years, whatever anniversary we want it to be on, because it does continue that vilification, and particularly maybe not our generation, but like my parents' generation or whatever, and they will still talk about it in a way that is probably not necessarily as acceptable now as you were talking about, because they do still vilify the Chapels.
I think you do need to get over it. I think you need to get past that. When you're talking about how when your parents talk about it, they don't talk about it,
yes,
remember that? Yes. They talk about it like it affected their life. It affected, how could they?
You've articulated that better than I have, especially that bit.
Yeah. Sorry. Maybe I was. But I think in good faith and in funny humour, it is one thing that is going to go down in New Zealand history. We can't stop it from happening. What do you get on a 40th anniversary, though? What's the 40th anniversary gift?
Oh, was it diamonds? If it's diamonds, I'm into a 40th anniversary gift.
Nobody gave me diamonds.
Hang on a moment. Should have thought about that when I made my argument 40th.
Yeah,
what could I get?
A diamond encrusted tiara.
Yeah. We're past
a diamond encrusted cricket ball. There you go.
Yeah, beautiful.
If that was the fact, then yeah. But I'm giving this one to go.
Oh,
all right.
Outrageous.
That's good. I didn't lose. 1-1.
Does that mean I have to come back another time?
Yeah.
So Rikki, was awesome having you on the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Can't wait to have you back. Yeah.
Love to see you back next week.
Oh, next week?
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
Whoa.
Maybe.
It's been
Am I allowed to say that? Am I allowed to book the guest?
I'm very busy and important.
I know you are.
We'll see you next week.
Thanks.
And as for Goran and I, of course, we will be back here next week, hopefully with yourself, Rikki, putting everything in sport on trial. Hei ko ngā mai.